Hey everybody, it's Eric from EPAutos.com, your libertarian car guy, and I'm in the new Mazda CX-5, and God bless Mazda. Mazda is one of a dwindling number of manufacturers that have not as yet drunk the electric car Kool Aid, and they're actually working on making their vehicles, their gas engine vehicles, more and more fun to drive. And the latest example of that is this 2019 CX-5, which gets as its optional engine the turbo 2.5 liter engine that Subaru first debuted in the Ascent, which is of course their full-size crossover SUV, and that thing needs a powerful engine. Needs it. Here we've got a vehicle that's smaller and also needs it, but in a different way. Now you've got superfluous power, extra power. You got 250 horsepower and 310 foot-pounds of torque in a significantly smaller and much lighter vehicle. Yay! It's the same basic concept that almost 60 years ago Pontiac deployed when it created the very first GTO. Some of you might remember that. They took a relatively small car for the time, the Tempest, and took a big engine from a big car and put it in the Tempest, and voila, you got a muscle car. So essentially the same concept here, but in a practical family vehicle. Now, the other nice thing about this CX-5 is that if you don't particularly want the superfluous, extra, joyous abundance of power, or the turbo that goes with it, you can get the same basic engine, 2.5 liters, without the turbo, which makes about 187 horsepower, so it's not as quick and not as powerful. However, it costs less, and you don't have to worry ever about a turbo problem down the road. Not that it's likely that you're going to have one with the turbo version of the 2.5 liter engine, but you know, simplicity almost always correlates with durability. So that's my 50 on that. I'll have more about the CX-5 up at EPAutos.com in the next day or two, depending on how the mojo flows. Also, I'm going to have an article up about this business that Trump is considering increasing the federal tax on gas. Now, I've been sort of a reluctant fan of the Orange Man, chiefly in the beginning because he avoided me having to listen to and look at her for 4 years, and also because of the rictus of outrage amongst the woke social justice mafia out there at his ascension to the decidership. He's by no means perfect, but in some ways he's been pretty good. For example, he's challenged the idiotic climate change orthodoxy, which is going to destroy Western civilization if it's not stopped. But right now he's about to do something that I think is tactically and strategically beyond stupid, and that is to raise the tax on gas to fund infrastructure. Now, the funding infrastructure is one thing. The country's roads are falling apart, bridges are falling apart. That can't be denied. But it's politically suicidal and just a really bad idea to raise gas taxes even more. They're already about the most regressive, to use the progressive term, taxes that there are. Out of every gallon of gas, you're paying something like 50 cents in taxes. And given that at current prices, gas is about, what, $2.40, at least in my area, a gallon? So think about that. It's comparable to everybody paying 40% or 30-something% income tax. It's outrageous. And, again, to use the progressive logic, it affects those least able to pay the worst. If you're pulling down a six-figure income, you don't probably care much if you're spending an extra $5 or so at every fill-up. But for average working people, that adds up, and it is a very, very big deal. The last thing that Trump needs to do politically is to antagonize the working people who comprise the majority of his support, as opposed to the leeches and parasites out there who are going to support whatever democratic socialist steps up to challenge him in 2020. I have a much better idea for the Orange Man, and here it is. I think that the money that is being wasted on subsidizing electric cars, and it's billions of dollars, be put toward infrastructure. How about that? That would actually make America great again and be productive, and would be infinitely better than screwing over average people again with yet another tax piled on top of all the other taxes all of us already pay. Worth thinking about, given that we are approaching the deadline for our annual sending in of tributum to Uncle. So, anyway, more up at epautos.com later today. Thanks for viewing, and we will catch up with you again soon.